Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live right here in the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing, super amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. And that's been a few years now. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, who is responsible for our intro that you just heard. So that's his voice, that's his music, and it is awesome. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween horror and dark wave electronic music. I'll be okay. And it can be found on any of your favorite streaming platforms, so check him out. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram as well. So tonight, we're going to be welcoming back Brad Olsen. And I mean, everybody loves Brad. He's just a wealth of information. We're going to be discussing sacred places and mysterious locations, destinations. And I can't wait. Frankly, he's been everywhere.
He's fun.
He is fun.
Yeah.
I really like him. I really like him a lot. He's just a pleasure to have on. Oh, look, everybody's chiming in. Hello,
Yes.
Steve. Hello. Hello, Howie. And Wayne, of course. Here we go. Be sure
Our
to
second producer.
Yep.
Hi, Wayne. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I think Wayne was in here. Look at this. He goes, hoo-hoo. I'm early for once.
Aw.
I know.
It's nice. You get a chance. I hope you're having some tea. I hope you're having a cuppa and just relaxing.
Oh, gosh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, it's been a day. So while we wait for Brad to come in.
It's been a year.
Yeah. So I'm hoping he talks about, I'm hoping he really talks about Sedona. I'm always just like so.
I think we have to go there.
Hi, Stevie. Yeah, I'm just like, what? I gotta know more about this place because it's wild, But
I
honestly,
have to know where. Like I said, if I went there, because a lot of it is wellness centers,
right?
I would need a guide to get through the hiking stuff because of all the rattlesnakes and the spiders and that's what keeps me from going. But
Right.
I do want to see it. It's so pretty.
You know what? There's so much that's going on there. And this is what I really would like to I'd really like to be able to touch on. Sorry, guys, I'm just bopping about a little bit here. It has everything that's going on. There's UFO sightings. There's a vortex there. People have unbelievable, spiritual awakenings and experiences. And it's never ending.
Ask Wayne about the bouncing cactus.
Sorry. Yeah, Wayne. Let's tell us about the bouncing cactus.
What happened?
Huh?
What happened? What's this about a bouncing cactus?
Tell it before our guest comes in.
Oh my gosh.
Bouncing cactus. Oh gosh. Well, he's always got the stories, but that's for sure. But
yeah, but a bouncing cactus? Like what the heck? My mind's everywhere.
It's gonna happen to him.
Oh no.
It sounds magical.
He didn't land on it, did he?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, kind of like Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, I was going to say the bouncing cactus, but no.
No. Yeah. Well, the Sedona, it's only bigger. Yeah.
I know. It's Skinwalker Ranch. That is a place. It's just like Skywalker Ranch. I think that's another one. So I don't know. There's a lot of crazy places out there. I've been fortunate to travel many parts of the world, except for the ones that are close to me.
That's because you always chose to go overseas.
I know. I'm always on the other side of the pond checking things out, and I'm not really super versed on places on this side of the world. So hence that's why Brad is here. And I see he's in the green room. Brad, just nod if you're ready. You ready? Yeah. Good.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you're talking. Yeah. I think he might be out of it. Are we ready, Brad? Yes. Okay. Okay, here we go. Right there. Here we are. Hello. Oh.
No.
Oh, there
yes.
we are. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I can see you blink, but I can't hear you.
I can't hear you either.
I can hear you.
Yes, there's the radio voice.
Okay.
How are you?
Doing great. Good to be on the Outer Realms again.
Oh,
it's good to have you.
Have you on.
Let's go out there.
Where are we going?
Yeah.
For the Outer Realms.
Awesome. As I was just saying, I've traveled to many different parts of the world and very versed in a lot of places on the other side of the pond, but I don't know enough on this side of the world. And it's a shame, really, that I've never really made it to all of these incredible places. So where do you want to start? You're going to be our teacher and just take us through, and let's go. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, well, let's see. Where do we start?
Are we starting in this hemisphere?
We want to start in this hemisphere. All right, good idea.
Okay.
Let's say, okay. This hemisphere, which also includes South America.
Yeah, I love it.
Western hemisphere.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, of course, there's the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the Western Hemisphere is the New World, and that's where so many new and revealing findings are more often found here. For example, the giant bones. I was just with Hugh Newman, and we were on a radio show on Ground Zero last week and talking about the giants for several hours. And he's gone all over Europe in his books on the giants with Jim Vieira. There aren't many left because they would have to have been several centuries of grave robbers trying to steal anything that might have been buried with them. Far more frequent findings in the Americas of the giants.
Wow.
Which I find really interesting. And just because they haven't been looted for as long as the ones in Europe were.
Right. Do you think partially because there's so many of them that have been found on indigenous land and it's a little bit harder to get access?
Well, the indigenous people have the right to repatriate bones.
Right.
Including some that clearly are not them, like these giant bones, but also with the Kennewick Man. Do you remember that? And I think it was 95. It was discovered in far eastern part of Washington State in the town called Kennewick. And it was so well preserved that they originally thought it might be a crime scene, but quickly discovered that the Kennewick Man was several thousand years old. And then when the DNA test came out, showed it to be mostly Caucasian. And that did not sit well with Native Americans, nor the Smithsonian, or upsetting the apple cart about who we are and where we think we're going. And the Indians got the Kennewick bones back and reburied them in an undisclosed location. So it can never be studied again.
Wow. Well, I think that's, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I think it's a good thing. They've examined it. Do you think it should be open for further investigation?
At least leave maybe a pinky bone.
Yes.
Yeah, but isn't there something about desecrating? Yeah.
Right, there is. And in my state where I grew up, many mound sites, and one of the most famous ones of all was downstate Illinois, and I think it was called the Dixon Mounds. I remember it was under a big roof, and it was the actual burial site as it was found, and the bones of the mound builder people were intact, not necessarily giants, but the way that they were buried. And it was very telling. And since then, they have found that to be disrespectful, and the Dixon mounds have been covered over, and you can't see that anymore. You can't really ever see the way bodies were laid out in mound sites. So that got taken away. But
right.
Maybe AI will dig it back up.
That's a whole other show, AI.
That's a whole other show, yeah. But I'm saying we can never say never anymore, because so many lines have been crossed in the last couple decades with certain things, like graves and power spots and things like that. A lot of boundaries have been crossed. A lot of rules have been broken. So good for them if they covered it over.
Mainstream academia will tell you no. Archaeologists are really, they don't believe in anything. It just has to be very textbook. On an average, I know archaeologists, and you mentioned, ancient aliens, for example. They don't even want to go there. It's not a thing. You guys are all crazy, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, I guess all those petroglyphs don't belong there either. It is really difficult. And as I think we touched on this before, Brad, with the Smithsonian and giant bones.
Yes. So it's what is known in this country as Smithsonian Gate, of them actively suppressing anything to do with giants.
And they never, do you think that they may have made forms of these bones and lock them away?
Or just dump them into the Atlantic Ocean?
I remember you telling us that. But do you think that they recorded anything about it?
No.
No, they wanted to get rid of the evidence. That was the whole idea. And in my book, Beyond Esoteric, I do have a chapter on suppressed human origins. Yes. And I outline a giant dig that took place at Lake Delavan in southern Wisconsin, not too far away from where I grew up. And we would often go to the lakes up there. It's close to Lake Geneva, and aunt and uncle had a place on the Lauderdale Lakes, and now my cousins on the other side live up there, and I was just there 2 weeks ago. But this dig that was taking place at Lake Delavan was one of the most highly regarded digs, totally professional, done by some archaeologists from Beloit College, doing everything by the book. And the Smithsonian comes in and, kind of like the FBI on a crime scene, flashes a badge and says, okay, we're taking over here. And the archaeologists yielded their fines, but said, look, we very much want to see what you find out about this. And they called and followed up. Sir, we don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to ask the stupid question. Sorry to interrupt you. Which family owns the Smithsonian?
Well, it was a benefactor named, I think his name was Smithsonian.
Yeah.
And he donated a whole bunch of money in the 19th century. And part of that was to create a narrative about our ancient history. And this was actually set into motion by John Wesley Powell, who was also very famous for being the first navigator down the full length of the Colorado River.
Oh, we're going way back.
Would have cited the cave there.
Yeah.
Was right at Crystal Creek on the Colorado River, because he tipped off the next explorer, which was Kincaid, who went in the subsequent trip. And then when he came out in Yuma, Arizona, it was headlines of the Arizona Gazette that this incredible cache of ancient Eastern artifacts, including mummified bones, which they never mention Egypt by name. But I think the fact that there were mummies who were treated in the same way as Egyptian mummies suggested that they had a hand into leaving all these artifacts. Well, as I'm with Dr. Michael Sala on Exopolitics talking about Grand Canyon, because one of his whistleblowers, JP, on special operations went in there and said he saw all the artifacts. So then I was just following up with more information about it from a traveling perspective, because I spent about 3 weeks rafting down the Colorado River in 2003.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
You're
20
courageous.
years ago. That was a great trip. Boy, was that amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so cool because every single strata of the world is represented in the Grand Canyon, all the way down to the black schist rock, the actual mantle of planet Earth. And it's very rare that you go that deep anywhere on the planet to see this. But that's another great mystery of the Grand Canyon. Anyways, when I was talking to Michael Sala, though, I had come across some newspaper articles of a gold mine in Marble Canyon section of the Colorado River. And the gold mine, they're pulling out oodles of gold because every strata is visible, including many mineral veins. This was before it was a national park. Now, Grand Canyon is the second oldest national park. And the first thing they did when they made a national park was outlaw any gold mining. But that could give you good reason, if you're an ancient culture, to go that deep into the Grand Canyon to extract gold.
Of course.
And perhaps set up some kind of settlement civilization or funerary artifacts for those who aren't making the trip back.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a strong belief that even the Aztecs made their way all the way up through
they did.
through the coast. And that being the case, of course, now they're looking for Aztec gold. They had been doing that for a couple of years up along a lot of the cave systems up there. I mean, Skinwalker Ranch gets all of this hoo-ha, and I'm sure it's a fabulous place, but there's so many other areas along the whole area is just loaded with cave systems and alleged gold. But we know there's a lot of history, and there certainly is and seems to be a lot of ongoing interest, shall we say.
There's got to be a lot that we don't know about either.
Yeah, interest.
There's got to be a ton of cave systems that they haven't even let out, meaning government.
But there are families too that own all of these properties, which is
why the secrecy? Why want to control so much of the history? I don't understand that. It's not causing any harm. So what if there's proof of giants? Like, there's proof of giants all over the world. Why do they have to continually
for those who follow?
So I don't understand why.
Well, I can tell you how it happened, and it was with John Wesley Powell, who became superintendent and lead historian at Smithsonian. This is what set it all in motion. And he had a policy that anything that went against the standard narrative of all Native American people being savages, never having high culture, no such thing as giants, no out of place artifacts, and they wouldn't even study them. That was policy. If they were to come across them, they were to be discarded, repatriated back in the ground if they could get away with it, or just sent elsewhere. I would like to hope some of them have been preserved, kind of like at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
The very last scene when they're in a great big warehouse and going on for a mile with crates and crates of artifacts. And one of them happens to be this Ark of the Covenant. That's
sitting in Area 51.
Like dust. Yeah.
Area 51, miles and miles and miles of warehouse.
Yeah. Dolly said, did you get that one?
Yes, Dolly Safford. Hi, Dolly says their DNA would end your belief system.
Well, that's right. And that's the proof in the giants.
Right.
And they've already done numerous studies, from Brian Forrester on the Paracas skulls to Klaus Donna got a giant skeleton from Ecuador. And it's even on display in a museum in Switzerland of this 20-some foot giant. But he did DNA studies, as well as the Star Child skull that Lloyd Pye was taking around to conferences with him.
Wow.
All three of these that I know of in the DNA study, human matriarchal DNA on the mother side. unknown father DNA
No.
on the DNA. Yeah. So just like the Bible says that they came down from the heavens and they saw the earth women were fair and they wanted to mate with them. Hubba hubba.
They did.
and how did this race just disappear? I'm asking because I honestly don't know.
Well, who says they have completely disappeared? Maybe there are still some pockets of them.
Yeah.
So examples are the Kandahar giant that was killed by our special forces in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And I confirmed this with Michael Jaco, and he had heard that this massive giant came out of a cave. It speared one of the men, but then the special forces had really large, bigger than bullet type weaponry and kept firing at its eye and eventually killed it.
Yeah,
many witnesses saw it and they had to bring in a special helicopter with a big net to roll it up. Went to Kandahar Airport, and then off it went to none other than Wright-Patterson Base in Ohio, where all the alien bodies go.
Wow.
That's a notorious place, and then they'll take on giants and other crypto creatures there as well.
Anything deemed high strangeness on different levels. Absolutely. Amelia, you want to get this one?
Yeah, and my head's like, I've got a million questions right now.
That has that effect.
No, seriously, because I think it's so sad in so many ways, you know? It just, okay, Stevie No Wonder. Love that name. Hi, Stevie. Anunnaki, Nephilim. Over here in Australia, the native Aboriginal people talk of the Duliga, who are giant hairy men almost as big as trees.
Crazy.
Yeah, I would imagine they're all over the world. It's not just here. I mean, we're all over the world, so they must have been as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what were they so threatened by?
I don't know, being eaten.
If they were carnivore, if they were cannibals, yes, but
no, but not just that. They'll eat animals. You know, they drink water. They get the food sources. I mean,
they also eat humans,
right? Yeah. See,
cannibalism.
In the tradition here in Nevada, where I'm at. Yeah, the tall red-haired giants that they found in the caves all around northwestern Nevada were at war with the Paiute. That's our native Indian tribe in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And there is even a book written about it by Sarah Winnemucca, one of the heiresses of the priestly shamanistic class of the Paiutes, wrote in the 19th century that the Paiutes went to war with the giants. And they trapped them in the Lovelock Cave, where they eventually they were able to get them all in there, chase them in there, because the Paiutes had the numbers. The giants never were huge populations. Mm-hmm. They lived a long time, but for some reason they weren't able to populate as well as the native people. Mm-hmm. Maybe because they're bigger and they just had to eat more, and it was more tighter.
Maybe that's why they got rid of them, because they were eating.
Avalanched them into the Lovelock Cave and then set all these fires to suffocate them, which they did. And that was the end of the giants in Nevada. They were eradicated. So they oftentimes were at war with the local people and could eat them. So the one thing about cannibalism, you can't do that with your own species. That's what mad cow disease was. They were feeding cow parts to cows. Yeah. And weird diseases pop up if you do that. Same thing. Humans cannot eat humans, but these giants are not quite human. They're human-like. They're bipedal. They look like us, but much, much bigger. But there's things about them, such as the central suture in the skull. These giants, the elongated skulls, do not have them.
Wow.
They have 30% larger cranial capacity. And you can't do that by wrapping a head and doing cranial deformation. You can move the skull and the brain around, but you can't create a larger brain and cranial capacity of the skull. You just can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but the eye sockets are 30% bigger. The entry point of the spinal cord to the brain is 30% larger. So human-like, but not quite human. Therefore, you get around the cannibalism nature laws, because you can eat something similar, just in the same way that some monkey tribes will eat lesser monkeys.
Right.
Yeah,
they're related, but they're not
humans.
As long as they
humans.
They can get away with it, right? Humans can eat monkeys too, and
no, there's monkeys that eat humans. Yeah, because deep in the South America, Papua New Guinea, like places like that, there you go deep in the jungles, there's a lot of cannibalism. So I wonder, and they're very small people, I wonder if there's any relation, obviously not size, but still,
you mean
if
like
this is a genetic offspring from
right
through the ages, because they're very tiny people.
Right.
They're not even I would be tall in their tribe. I am 5'4".
Yeah.
I'm 5'4" and I'd be tall. They're very tiny people and they are cannibalists. So I just,
a lot of tribes, who don't have contact with humanity. I mean, I had a friend, Billy Jameson, who's passed now, but he spent 5 years in the Amazon with a tribe, and they showed him how to shrink heads. He was also the man in possession of King Ramses I and all those mummies, and brought out the Niagara Falls Museum of Oddities, and he had the only collection. They gave him shrunken heads, and it was oh, you want to talk weird? I go over there because I was filming with him, and he goes, I want to show you something. I'm like, okay. He goes, do you know why they shrink heads? I says, yeah, they believe that they could trap the soul of their enemy in the head. And he goes, correct. He goes, so he showed me, he goes, do you want to hold them? Like, yeah, I don't care. So, I'm holding them. It's like, look like a typical shrunken head. He goes, now I'm going to show you something that's going to wig you out. I'm like, okay. And he gave me a little Caucasian man with red hair and a little red mustache.
Oh my God.
I said, that has to be fake. And he goes, I kid you not. He goes, they gave me this one. It was considered a trophy.
Because of the red hair. Did it come with a tartan?
I know.
Sorry, I could not. You walked right into
but it shows you like that this was going on, because Billy was out there probably like in the 80s, 70s, 80s. That's pretty freaking recent.
I never knew why. Man. Thank you for that. I didn't know why they shrank the heads. I just thought it was some kind of ritual for death ritual. Yeah, and it was. They were holding the soul.
So do you think, because there is obviously, because of what happened in the military, finding this giant just walking out of a cave, do you think they still exist as in that form? Or do you think Bigfoot, because you're saying, no, this is Bigfoot as a species, a type of race of giants, or do you think it's a whole other thing?
Yeah. Well, give you some more examples. We talked about the Kandahar giant. That was in 2003, so only 20 years ago. And I write about it in my book Beyond Esoteric. Could he have just been a one-off, a living relic, or they obviously have to mate and procreate? Maybe there was a family inside that cave. But I was at a conference, about 3-4 years ago, and this Italian from Sardinia, the island in the Mediterranean.
Yep. Yes.
He gave a very compelling presentation, even though he needed a translator to translate what he was saying. He only spoke Italian. Gave a great presentation about not only megalithic tombs that were built for giants, he claimed. His name was Luigi. And he also said that he grew up there, and there was talk about this valley that was really hard to get to, but it was the land of the giants, and it's forbidden. You can't go there. And anytime somebody would come across bones, artifacts, another megalith, the institution that was first on the scene and would also act as the agent to cover it up or confiscate the artifacts was none other than the Vatican. Luigi was Italian, and of course they're very Catholic there, but they're like the Johnny on the spot when it comes to
that's why I'm so pro.
That's their Smithsonian Gate in Europe, at least in Italy.
There's a lot, but you have to understand. I think we had this conversation. I can't remember if it was with you, Brad, where I said the Vatican closes its gates at 10 o'clock at night. What city has gates?
It's a micronation. It's not even part of Rome or Italy.
No,
it's his own government.
But if you're writing a letter, it will say Vaticano Italia on it. So it's part of the country, but it's hilarious. When I saw that they closed the gates, they have their own police, their own law enforcement. You have to question that, That's not far-fetched from Area 51. Just you can't walk into Area 51. When you think about it, and when you're given tours in the Vatican, you're only given public.
Of course.
And I'm doing air quotes, yes, everyone, public tours.
We all know about the library.
The library is different than the film, of course. They don't have that kind of oxygen and that kind of control and all that. Yes, they have Swiss guards, because that's why we always say be Switzerland.
Right.
That's where that line comes from. They also have swords and an armory down there from hundreds.
They have
of years
alien
ago.
skulls.
Yeah, from centuries and centuries ago. They have the swords of the first, because Italy at one time was a monarchy. There was a monarch. It wasn't always the Pope came in after.
Not too long ago, actually.
Not too long ago. It was after Queen Margherita. Yes, your favorite pizza. It was named after a queen who was most difficult. That's where that pizza name comes from.
Right. And then, of course, Chris,
Antarctica is a place I
well, that's not true, Chris, because I did go down there in a sailboat, and we were able to land on the continent and explore around.
Were you limited to
several hundred miles on a sailboat?
What boat did you wear?
Peninsula.
And you weren't limited? You didn't have eyes on you saying, "Where do you think you're going?"
No.
Wow.
You sure they didn't control you somehow and you don't know?
No, not at all. Here's what happened. So we signed on with the sailboat in Ushuaia, Argentina, and the day before we were going to sail, we all had to go to the naval base of the Argentinian Navy, and this was to submit our itinerary, and also so they take a picture of our passport and know who was on the crew and knew where we were going. We just said this is the general way, and this is where most cruise ships and other sailboats will go in this route. So it's not like we were
port of entry
announcing anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And then after we submitted our itinerary, and really the captain had the most to speak to the Argentinian Navy, we were then brought to immigration processing where the cruise ships dock in Ushuaia. And at that point, we were already stamped into Argentina. So we go into this immigration and get stamped out of Argentina. Then we went about and sailed our trip for 26 days, came back to that same immigration station, got stamped back into Argentina. So that was kind of weird. For 26 days, I was in no man's land.
Right.
There was nothing to account. There was no processing, or really the only other people we saw were on the other bases. And then there was another ship that was going down there that was doing scuba diving expeditions. That was quite exciting, because at one point we were both docked next to each other at the Ushuaia, at the Vernansky Ukrainian base. And that night they asked us aboard, and they went over all their videos and photos below the ice in Antarctica. They did under ice shelf dives. They did wreck dives. And the pictures they showed of the wildlife on the floor of the ocean in sub-freezing water looked like any coral reef, or at least some of the creatures were all lit up in fluorescent colors. Some of the plants too.
Well, they probably have to make their own
warm, but some kind of flora
they make their own light
that grows there.
Wow.
Could be alien.
Well,
we wouldn't know, because none of that has been brought up to surface to examine, so we wouldn't know. They would, because they're there.
I don't know. You know what? I mean, we all know some fishies going on down there, but
and it isn't those
but it was
fish
nice that you got
about.
to go in and experience it. I think it's
we got to see 6 different bases. Of
That's
6
amazing.
different nations. Each one was a bit different, what they were working on, or the Palmer base, run by the Americans, they don't let tourists come aboard. But since we were 3 Americans on our boat, and I was on the radio with the station chief, saying, we're tax-paying Americans. You got to let us board. And they finally relented and let us come
I
aboard.
pay your salary.
Yeah, you won't get on saying that.
No.
And then we went to the
Thank
first
you.
landing was at the Arktowski base, which is a Polish base. And
Right.
we were in a Polish vessel, 11 Poles and 3 Americans. But we were delivering fresh fruit and vegetables to most of the bases that we overnighted at. We did with Arktowski, and they were very grateful, invited us in for dinner, and
Yeah.
we got to take showers on land, and the one and only time using the internet from Antarctica, from King George Island. It's so along the Palmer Peninsula, it's that finger that sticks up from Antarctica, and you got South America over it. That's the shortest distance between any continent to Antarctica. And so that's where most of the traffic goes. 90% of those traveling to Antarctica, and over 50% of the people who go down there every year are tourists, and they almost all disembark from the southern tip of South America. And most of them are in cruise ships, and they'll get over the Drake Passage in 2 days, where it took us almost 4 days. And then they can go back in 2 days, where it took us 6 days because we had to tack back and forth. And then we all voted to go an extra day on the last day so we could see the very southern tip of South America, called Cape Horn. And it's a pyramidal shaped mountain, and it's beautiful to see. It's the changeover between the Atlantic and the Pacific, and notoriously stormy seas. We got very violently seasick and on the way down, but not on the way back. We'd already got our sea legs on, and took the Dramamine a day ahead of time. Got to take it well ahead of time. Chris asking, can we explain the Antarctica Agreement? Yeah, the Antarctica Treaty is one of the best and longest standing world treaties that's ever been developed. It's still in effect today, and it basically prohibited military activity from Antarctica. So what's very interesting about that, I'm glad you brought that up, because in Antarctica, right before 1958, when the articles were originally drafted up, was Operation Argus. And that was the high altitude nuclear testing. At least this is the cover story. This is along the lines of Alternative One, which is we'll blow holes in the ozone and let all the pollution out. What a boneheaded idea. But I think Argus was just a cover story, and I do have it in here in my Alternative 1, 2, 3 chapter, that it was a cover for nuking New Schwabenland, the German claimed area. So if I were ever to go back, I'd want to go to New Schwabenland. I know where they set up base 211 in the Schumacher Hills in their land claim from the late 1930s. But the Antarctica Treaty was an end result of that, saying there could be no more military testing, no training, like ostensibly that's what Operation High Jump was supposed to be, training troops for cold weather combat after World War II, or going to root out the Germans, which they tried and were routinely beaten back to the point where Operation High Jump was 2 months into the 6-month expedition, hightailed it out of there right after the Battle of High Jump. And that's when Admiral Byrd said to a journalist from the Chilean newspaper that we would be confronted with an enemy that can fly pole to pole at incredible speeds. And that is the Hannibal craft of Nazi Germany. And all those craft got shepherded out at the end of the war. A lot of them went to South America, and I know where an underground base is there. And I also know that some of that stuff went down to not only base 211, but there was another location called the New Berlin base. But I think the New Berlin base was in conjunction with a group of people that were already existing down there. Maybe not even human, but human-like, once again. And that was in Admiral Byrd's diary, is that right before Operation High Jump, he flew into the hole in the ice near the South Pole, first experienced a fantastic environment down there, green, verdant hills, flowing streams, and even a woolly mammoth he wrote about in his diary that his son published, and was summoned to meet the master in some gleamingly beautiful futuristic city called the Domain of the Ariani. This is what he wrote about in his diary. And when the master, who he was summoned to visit, was very concerned about U.S. blowing off nuclear bombs in White Sands and Hiroshima and Nagasaki, to send Admiral Byrd back with a message to the Pentagon, you got to stop that. No more nukes. And only a week or two later, after coming out, he was still ordered to confront the Nazis at New Schwabenland. So he followed orders, and they were beaten back by craft that came up out of the ice. Right. This is what the Russians reported, and they were spying on us, of course, and probably quite gleeful that America got their ass handed to them. But they too were fighting against the Nazis. So they had this documentary. I think it's still available, of Russian intelligence pertaining to what really happened at High Jump.
Right.
And they reported, and there have been other whistleblowers who have said that these craft came up out of the water and were impervious to the Allies trying to shoot them down. Yet in a show of force, not only did they take out all the planes that tried to attack them, but they took out a submarine, and they sliced one of the ships in the Armada in half. With what we would describe as a direct.
That's pretty well documented.
That's exactly what Eric Hecker said he saw.
I thought I saw it on History.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And well, why would Rothschild have an island down there if there was nothing significant? Who wants an island down in freaking Antarctica unless there's something significant? I'm sorry,
financial.
Well, when I was going down there, I talked to several people I know who do research there. Linda Moulton Howe, Dr. Michael Salo. We've all spoken on panels at Contact in the Desert, and we were just on a panel when I got back. But I knew Dr. Sala, and he'd done a lot of research. We actually met at a shoot for Ancient Aliens, talking about Antarctica. And I asked him, what should I be looking for on the Palmer Peninsula? And he says, if you can go down that far, Rothschild Island is on the southern part of the Palmer Peninsula. We did not get that far. But since I started looking into it, since that was on my radar, do you know that that YouTuber named Dabu7? Yes, he's probably been censored on YouTube, but he's moved elsewhere.
No doubt,
he had a video of showing the world in a macro and frequency energy leaving Rothschild Island, spanning up over the southern hemisphere, up to the northern hemisphere, culminating in the country of Greece. On the very same day, those horrendous fires broke out all across the country. This is what Dabu7 reported. I wish I would have saved that video. It was just so telling. So they have weather control station there, the Harper rays, and those Harper rays, by the way, are also on flotillas. They can move them around on barges.
And the whole world's burning right now.
Right. By design.
Yeah.
This is the strategy attention they're putting us under till the fake alien invasion of next year.
Oh, yeah. Project Bluebeam. Yes.
Oh, is anybody really surprised? Like, I don't know.
I'm not surprised.
Well, the important thing is to understand, like Werner von Braun said to his assistant, Carol Rosen, that if they try to pull this off, just, you got to know it's fake. It'll be very realistic. What if we're all watching some kind of holographic show in the sky? Now, I've interviewed Randy Kramer. He was on a Super Soldier panel that I moderated some years ago, and Bluebeam came up and he says, I advocate that we do that. I said, what do you mean? Fake alien invasion? He says, well, and as a spokesman for the military, Randy Kramer says that he believes they need a way to show their military hardware, because their backward engineering, just like the Nazis, is so well advanced that they're indeed living hundreds of years in our future, technologically speaking.
Yeah.
And they don't know they've painted themselves in a corner with this, because they have credible anti-gravity flying craft, exploring the solar system and beyond, but they don't know how to tell the human race, because they would be outraged. So Randy Kramer's saying, I advocate Operation Bluebeam, because then we can bring out all our TR-3Bs and all the exotic hardware and fight this alien threat.
And war is money. How do you explain? Yeah, how do you explain to your people that you have all these missing millions and billions of dollars? Where did it all go?
Mm-hmm.
And you are creating, an arsenal for what? And you have been bullying people into being silent about extraterrestrial life and UFOs. And now all of a sudden whistleblowers are coming out everywhere. What are you going to do? You are backed into a corner. I agree with you. You have to come up with something. Right. So it makes complete sense. So we do. Okay. So can we talk a little bit about Mount Shasta?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think I find it extremely intriguing. So we'll just kind of come up the coast a bit and just maybe touch on that, if you don't mind bouncing around a little bit. But
sacred places in North America and a mysterious location.
Yeah.
As good as Mount Shasta. Yeah, I go there for conferences several times a year. I'll be back third weekend of September.
Yeah.
And I was there for the Mount Shasta Summer Conference during the summer solstice weekend. That was a great one.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's this magical mountain. You can see it for 100 miles all around on a clear day. Usually cloaked with white glaciers. But a couple of years ago, during the end of this drought cycle and during a heat wave, when we were having all these horrific fires all across California and all the Pac Northwest, hardly any this year, but we had a monster snow season too. But Mount Shasta was devoid of all snow and ice for the first time in history. That all the glaciers melted. The only remnants was under dirt. You could not see them. And the Modoc Indians of that area had a prophecy that when Mount Shasta loses all its ice, even for a couple weeks or a month in the summer, at the end of summer before it snows again, the Modoc prophecy is we would be in earth changes, that we would be in it, that it is happening. It's past tense. We're going down that path.
This is smaller, much, much smaller scale, but they say the same thing about the Dolomiti in Italy. That, if we don't see them snow-capped, that something big is coming. I mean, I can't translate it from Italian to English. This year was the first year they've had that little to none capped during the winter. So see, this is when you talk to people, then you realize, wait a second, this connects to this, connects to that. It's like, the hell, and the whole world on fire at the same time.
Right.
That one's bothering me the most. I'm angry with that.
So, no snow on Shasta.
That was a couple summers ago. Now there is still up there. I just drove by it a few weeks ago. Monster year though, so it'll probably the glaciers are starting to reform. But do you know the definition of a glacier is not that if snow lasts for a season or two. The definition of a glacier has to last at least 3 to 5 years and then continually accumulate ice. And when it really accumulates long down in Antarctica, we experience the blue ice, not the sky ice that you've seen on some of those videos. I'm not sure what that is or where that's found or if that's even real, but the blue ice is definitely real.
It's got so pictures
of it. It is when it's very, very old ice and it's compressed. And when we got to the Arktowski base, the Poles, they like to party. They were happy to see us because they had fresh food and vegetables. And so we started having some mixed drinks. And one of the hosts comes with a bucket of the blue ice. And they're just popping it up into ice cubes and putting it in our drinks and then pouring each one individually while we were holding the glass. So we would experience the blue ice started popping like popcorn. There's all these little air bubbles in it. And when it starts to melt, it releases with a pop. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then we started going out to the big ice walls ourselves with a pickaxe to collect our own blue ice for our own mixed drinks.
Is there any danger of any gases or anything like that coming out of the blue ice glacier?
I don't think so. They're very, very tiny little air bubbles in the ice. But it was so cool that they made a popping sound.
Yeah, I wonder about the minerals and the benefits of drinking that.
didn't seem to affect us. We had just come off a case of really horrific seasickness. So it kind of felt good to put one on a little bit. I think I lost 25 pounds on that trip. It was by far the hardest place I've ever traveled.
Excuse me while I go get my ticket.
I know.
Wow.
Crash diet on the Drake Passage.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, there is a treaty in place because it is believed there is a civilization down there. And, you know, Linda Moulton Howe talks about it. She's done quite a bit on it. You've talked about it. There's a lot of people talking right now. Michael Salla really has been very vocal about it with people coming to him. But there seems to be this, I'll say that this awakening as well. There's a lot of these locations. I think Sedona is another one. Other places that people don't really know about. Maybe our Indigenous know about them and talk about them. And you may have, you know, a few people who have had the privilege of visiting. But everything seems to be, and I don't even know if activating is the right word to you know, to say. But let's just say that they're having a lot more activity. Vortexes are opening up, or again, portals are being created or opening up long dormant, much like, I guess, anything else. Volcanoes, you know, erratic weather patterns, UFO activity. You know, why do you think that's happening? Because you've been to a lot of these places on this side of the world. Do you notice a difference from when you first visited them, maybe like compared to now?
Well, since we were little kids, the planet has grown in population almost double.
Yes.
Certainly by the time when our parents were born, populations doubled. So there's way more people in the world. And for better or for worse, it has an impact. So the cities are getting more crowded. The roads, which were built sometimes 100 years ago for 2 oxen carts, are now chock full. And some countries like the Philippines, it's absolutely maddening because they still have single lane roads in and out of the capital. Like, come on, you people. They have just grifted so much during the Marcos reign. It could have been a Singapore. It could have been one of the tiger countries economically, but these kleptomaniac, in the case of the Philippines, the Marcos, crippled this country, and their infrastructure is woefully outdated. However, they're very nice people. They're great speakers in English. They're, I think, better call center workers than the Indians. They have less of an accent. And they love America. I mean, we liberated them from the Japanese in World War II, and they have not forgotten. We still have big bases down there too. The Philippines about 4 or 5 times. Great country, very diverse, and yeah. So
So
that's how the world's changing. It's just getting very, very crowded in some ways. I don't advocate depopulation in any way. I think we could go off planet if people wanted to volunteer and maybe colonize. We have that technology, but it's certainly not being used for humans.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Hi.
Is it your birthday, Brad?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay. Happy belated birthday. I'm pretty sure I wish you happy birthday. I'm like, wait a minute. I remember seeing that post. No, because I always follow those.
Right.
You know, we have a vast landmass in Canada that can still be built. So this is why I don't understand why some places are so overpopulated, especially when they're trying to move and they don't want to stay in their native country. I think the countries should open up more space rather than throwing them into the cities, but that's another show.
Yeah.
That's another show.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I know for myself, I gravitate towards the mountains, especially. I gravitate towards, again, overseas. I do gravitate to these places that I feel have special meanings. Sedona would be one for me. You spend time in Sedona. What is it about Sedona I mean, it seems to have everything. People have tremendous spiritual awakenings. They have UFO tours, lots of sightings, huge vortex. I mean, name it. What is not in Sedona?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what I should be asking.
So I've spoken at 2 conferences this year already in Sedona, one in March and another in April. And in the April one, I was on a panel with Tom Dongo, the famous remote viewer, and Travis Walton, who inspired the film Fire in the Sky, book and movie. So 2 legends, absolute legends in UFOlogy research. Such a pleasure to get to know both of them. But Tom Dongo's presentation, he's lived in the Verde Valley, is where Sedona is, the whole general area, for 30 plus years. And being a remote viewer and talking to law enforcement, to people that have also lived there and had sightings, he was saying that there are 5 known underground bases just in the Verde Valley.
Wow.
And my question was,
why?
Are they good ETs? Are they bad ETs? Or are they our U.S. black op bases?
Right.
He says all 3, all the above.
Wow.
We got goodies, baddies, and ours.
Right. Right. Do you think they work together? Because there's a lot of, let's face it, we know there's
sometimes
we know they work
not always.
They do. Right.
Yeah, I think that the good ETs are not aligned with our bases. That would be more with the malevolent groups.
No.
Right.
Well, I don't know. They're things
out
that we've heard that are going on in some of these bases is very, very dark.
Yes.
Is it out of fear that they've aligned themselves with them? You know, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah, well, if we want to have this discussion, then you could say, why did the Nazis align with the malevolent ETs? Probably because they gave them what they wanted. All of these generals, all these human generals in the military always want technology, and they will sell out their own people to get it.
Yeah.
We did it. Germany did it. And other countries as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So we basically, I mean, I think Sedona is just one spot, but I guess I have to ask, what is it about the area that would bring everybody there?
Well, it's incredibly beautiful. And keep in mind, it is where the Colorado Plateau starts. That's what those beautiful hills are.
Yeah.
That Colorado Plateau is just chock full of caves in a natural way anyways, as well as lava tubes all up and around the San Francisco Peaks, Sunset Crater right there, Woodpaki. You keep going north, you get to the Grand Canyon. And when I was researching more on the Grand Canyon, when I was about to go on with Dr. Sala, I came across this military placing canisters of smoke in some of the caves of the Grand Canyon on the north side, and the smoke coming up 50 miles away in the town of Kanab. So these cave systems are very extensive. This is where the Hopi people say that they came out of the underworld in what they call the Sipapu, which is close to the confluence of the Colorado and the Little Colorado River.
Okay.
And they lived down there with the ant people.
Right.
Take that as you will. Insectoids, ant, maybe Antarctica, one researcher said, Richard Dewhurst, who wrote about the giants.
Right.
I tend to think that usually the natives would depict things the way they saw it.
Right.
And call things the way they were.
All white.
So perhaps they were like these mantid creatures or some kind of insectoid. And the Hopi also have a prophecy for this day, the Blue Kachina prophecy, and that is we are on the cusp of great earth changes. Now keep in mind that the character in Chinese language for crisis is two form. It can be a good crisis or a bad crisis.
Right.
And if it's a good crisis, then new opportunities will come. We can be coming out of this upcoming crisis into, say, the golden age, when a lot of this technology could be released to the public, and we can stop polluting this planet, for one. But
Right.
With free energy and desalinization plants, we could easily turn all the deserts on this planet back into gardens.
Right. I don't think they want to. It's the problem. But I like Tamara's question. What are they smoking out of those caves?
Well, they were releasing flare smoke canisters, just
Right.
so they could follow
them.
Yeah,
I'd
where
be worried about natural gases that are in these caves when you light anything.
Well,
I'll tell you a story about that. Near Area 51 in Nevada, there's a little town called Rachel, and it's along the Highway 375, the extraterrestrial highway. It's even named that with famous signs you can get a picture of, and the black mailbox where Bob Lazar and Bill Cooper and all the greats in the early age of ufology would go out to the black mailbox to go climb up to one of the peaks there, and they could oversee and watch on Wednesday nights. Bob Lazar said they would try out their craft, and a lot of witnesses and video. So they started doing also conferences out in Rachel, Nevada, and there's pictures of Jordan Maxwell and Bill Cooper on the wall. I mean, all these legends have passed.
Yes.
So we were out there one time, and a buddy of mine had a few extra days, and while we were there, we're just staying up late doing a sky watch, looking out in the direction of Area 51. Probably saw some drones. That was about all we caught. But one of the locals came out. He's like, yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I came out here and did a movie, and now I live in Rachel, and it's just high strangeness all the time. And he told my friend about this gold mine near Rachel, or a very deep shafted mine. And there's even a little ghost town up there. So Eric went up there, and when we asked him the next couple of days, hey man, what'd you see? He said, there are shafts that go so deep that if you don't wear a gas mask and you go down that deep, you'll suffocate.
Wow.
What's so interesting is these cave passages and these mine shafts go on for miles and miles and miles and miles, well into the Nellis Air Force Base, which is where Area 51 and S4 are all located. Oh, and with underground facilities.
Wow. Not surprised. I mean, I've read articles that it goes down so far. I mean, like the side of a skyscraper. Like it really goes down.
Oh, yeah.
You know. So
Men in Black didn't get that elevator down how many flights from nowhere.
Here's the question.
Yes, thank you. Wayne says, hi Wayne. What about the indigenous tales? If the moon faced people, what are your thoughts on that, Brett?
Well, weren't they another name for the giants?
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
Back full circle.
Yeah, makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, and they saw it, they drew it, they recorded it in cave art and other, like the Mayans literature that they passed on. They depicted the giants. The Spanish were like Smithsonian Gate, just destroying every Mayan codex they could get their hand on. Well over 90% lost, probably close to 99% of all the Mayan codex. It's like the burning of the Library of Alexandria. So much we could have learned from this high culture that's just gone.
You must be reading my mind, because I was going to ask you, if the Smithsonian could get their hands on things, did they vandalize or destroy things that they couldn't take with them in caves, just so that no one could decipher them?
Well, probably. And I'd say they covered up the giant cave hole on the Colorado River, because when I went down it, we couldn't see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I knew approximately where it was, and I certainly was looking and talked to my guide who'd been doing trips for 30 years, and he's never seen it. So they just drop an avalanche and cover it up.
How they get in and out of places undetected, right? You have to put it this way. When people have a ton of money, like the world's money, there's nothing else to achieve but to own different things.
Oh yeah, how much sits in private collections as well?
Yes. They look for, like, how do we know some elite isn't caging up grays somewhere? We don't know, because to them, I mean, they collect, I mean, just Jurassic Park itself, the dinosaurs, they collect wild animals like lions and not even shoot and kill them just to say, these are my pets. They're different type of people. The you know, so I wonder.
Well, I can go back to my friend Billy, who had, you know, he had Ramses the First and had no idea.
Yeah.
Until the museum in Atlanta bought 6 out of his 8 mummies because they recognized the royal mummy because of the way the arms were crossed. And who knew? It's like, what? I know. You had made mention of Mañana, Mexico. Speaking about that.
Mañana, that means tomorrow.
Does it?
Yes.
In Mexico.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Because
somewhere else in Mexico.
Right. Because it's also, you know, has a lot of different mysteries out down that way. But that's Cancun and that whole area.
Oh yeah, out on the Yucatan.
Yeah,
I went to the Yucatan.
Yes.
That's
There's a lot of stuff in the Yucatan.
On the coast, and Chichen Itza. If you're there on the spring equinox day, the shadow creates a serpent along the staircase.
I'm glad I wasn't there that day.
Right.
I was there the week before.
Okay.
I was just thinking, oh my God, I would have freaked.
I need wine.
Yeah, I do.
Bubbles. Okay. There was a question up here from Chris, and again, this just goes back to giants, but I don't like to, you know, veer you off too much. Petra.
Oh, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Petra in Jordan's a weird place. Do giants live there? Don't know. I've never heard of a giant bones or artifacts in Petra, but it's this rose red city carved right into the rock. You go through this long canyon called the Seek, and then you come out with the Treasury Building, the most famous one. But it goes on for many miles. There's quite a few cave structures built into the cliffside and other buildings. I'd love to go there. The one time I was there were some issues with Israel and Jordan, and it was harder to get over the border. But yeah, that's on the bucket list.
I know it's a fantastic location.
It's going to be harder to get into everywhere now.
You put up the question about the moon people. That was my understanding. One race of giants I've heard of called the moon people. Maybe it's other people or indigenous. If you guys know, say in the chat who you think it was, Wayne. And
I think that's what he was asking. He was just saying, I thought they were regular size, but yeah, that's why he was asking what your thoughts were on it. Moonface. I've never heard of them.
Where does he think they came from? I thought it was kind of North Carolina or East Coast area. The moon people, there were some artifacts found that were attributed to giants. Yeah, and they call them the moon people.
Just chime in. Yeah. I know going back to Sedona, there was a big belief that, you know, a connection to ancient Egypt. We have someone coming on the show from Sedona next month, I think, and she talks about ancient Egypt in Sedona, and it just
with all the landforms.
Yes, yeah. What do you?
Would that be Tavara Thunderbeat?
Yes, she's just delightful. She's delightful.
Yeah, she's got some cool books showing all the Sphinx and Cleopatra, and also up in the Grand Canyon, that area that you're not allowed to go to, which is up the Crystal Creek Canyon, is off limits, where supposedly this Kincaid expedition found the artifacts in a cave. But if you look on a map, on the north side of the Grand Canyon are all these Egyptian place names. And that's the area you can't go into. Go figure.
Yeah, I wonder why. Do you think that? I mean, do you think they made it that far? Do you think? Are we talking again extraterrestrials, or did they just find a way to get here? And we're finding all of this stuff.
Let's put it this way: the ancient people with some of the oldest mines in South Africa were fascinated with gold. And this is even coming out of what Zachariah Sitchin wrote in his books, that they were mining gold. That is the Anunnaki and the Nephilim. They had a planet that needed it for their atmosphere, and they helped create the human race. They needed a worker class who was smart enough to take orders, but dumb enough not to question who their lords were. And that was the human race. So in South Africa, oldest mine shafts in the world, oldest civilization in the world. A lot of people don't know that. Check out Michael Tellinger's work, including Adam's Calendar, a Stonehenge of Southern Africa, as well as all the, and I show it in my book, Modern Esoteric, all these stone corrals, they're called, and they just all over the countryside. And that's where these oldest mines were. So finding gold in the Grand Canyon, boy, that certainly elicits the interest of those who wanted the gold. So perhaps there was a mining operation there, an ancient one, because they were pulling it out in the modern age. There was still enough.
Right.
Or you would leave artifacts behind if you're there for a long period of time.
Well, I know in South America they found a cave. I believe it was a tour, a guy who gave tours, and the name is eluding me, where they have all the lines.
All the what?
The lines, the bird in the sky. So I'm okay. I'll be all right. Anyway, they found grays.
I'm laughing because I'm
grays were all in full, almost like armor, but it was all Egyptian, like tall grays, small grays, but all Egyptian. They had, the chest plates, and as soon as you look at them, you knew that it was all Egyptian. And they were in a cave in Peru.
Nazca lines,
Nazca lines, that's the one.
Those are the geoglyphs down in Nazca. We have some along the Colorado River on the Arizona and California side called the Blythe Indigos. I cover it in my book, Sacred Places North America.
Right.
Yeah, the strip mining, the gold mining in South Africa and some of those countries down there, where they found these stone corrals. That's also where the Great Zimbabwe archaeological ruin is located. And that's a very, very old ancient site. You hardly hear anybody talking about that place. There's these rounded walls, and with these chevron figurines and rock formations in the Great Zimbabwe.
Right. Well, I mean, clearly they get around. So I just want to get to another question before we go off track again.
Yes. Hi, Nights. So does that mean that the masters are returning?
Why don't you guys answer? I don't have an answer. I don't know.
Michael Sala.
I think they are. There's stories of giants that are coming out of stasis chambers in Antarctica, but I have no way to really verify that.
Right.
We've heard the stories, but I can't say for certain. I'd like to think this is the time. This is the zeitgeist of the age.
Well, I mean, there's stuff going on. If you do follow Michael Sala, I enjoy, watching his series. He definitely has a lot of people coming forward and telling him things, whistleblowers. They feel very confident in, exposing the truth to him. So it'll be fascinating to see if everything that these people have been talking about will come into fruition. All these large space arcs that are just down and waking up, and that alone. I mean, why are we burning? Why is everything melting? Why is the weather so erratic? What's causing all of this, other than, the powers that be that are trying to hide something or speed things along? Yeah, right.
Vatican Gate.
I know, exactly.
You name it.
I know.
How many other gates are there?
I know. We can talk about that sometime. I'll just have to get this off YouTube.
A lot of people missing from Vatican.
I know. So this is what Wayne has to say about the moon people, I guess.
I believe so. Wayne says pale skin, large blue eyes, came out at night as they could see better at night, and apparently didn't like the sunlight.
Okay. I think I vaguely remember this. They almost look like a gray, but their eyes, well, I mean, gray's eyes will be round when they're not wearing lenses, apparently, but they just had their eyes were just a different shape altogether. So I don't know. I think I vaguely remember this. Tamara says, oh, yeah.
You want me? Yeah. Stories about the river drying up, and it's happening now.
So everything's happening.
Everything's happening. I keep having nightmares of the 4 horsemen. So I'm just saying.
Great.
I think it's because I'm reading and seeing too much online. I need to take a break.
You need to take a break.
Because it's affecting my sleep and my anxiety levels.
Let's stop and do a quick station and sponsor ID. And then
absolutely.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Folgers coffee.
Hey, we need to give you a show.
There we go.
Too good, too good. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 and 107.7 FM. We are currently and have been for a while streaming live and in archive on Roku. So if you're watching us from there, welcome if it's your first time. And if you've been liking what you see, share us with your friends. Let them know. Tonight, our guest is our dear friend, and he's always a special guest with a wealth of information, of course, and so much fun, is Brad Olsen. We are discussing sacred places and mysterious locations. If you're just tuning in, no worries, because you can stream our archives on any platform that you normally use. We're on, I believe, 200 to 250 platforms. Again, don't forget to like and share us. Thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for sponsoring our show. I feel like the ladies from The Price is Right here. Thank you from the beginning. We love you. We appreciate you. We thank you for your continued support. Also, a huge thank you. You see our artwork, our promos, our banners, to horror illustrator Steve McGinnis, fantastic artist for our banner and promo media. You can find him on Facebook. He also works commission pieces. Thank you for our intro and outro and his voice, not just the music, Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, practically every format that you can stream on, you will be able to find him. And he is always on Facebook and Instagram, dropping little clips of his music for previews so you can listen before you buy. Now, if you are watching us on YouTube, right here, or on Facebook, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and share button. Thank you. I won't badger anymore, but hit the like. We have you. We have the ratings. We want to see them there.
Yeah, just putting up some comments on Holocaust dreams. It's believed that people who have Holocaust dreams are contactees or abductees, and that seems to be a reoccurring thing that abductees talk about. And
Holocaust
they don't know if
dreams?
Yeah, they don't know if is it a memory, maybe from, like genetically speaking from the old Mars days, or because they report seeing red, like a red surface and things like that, or is it just someplace that they've been taken to, or so it's fascinating, but it's something that I believe Joe was talking about that. It's something that interviewing certain contactees or abductees talk about. They often talk about having Holocaust dreams. I know. That's what I said. Thankfully, I haven't had any of those. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
no. Safe.
I wasn't smiling at that. I was smiling at Chris that I always forget to hit the button until I'm reminded. Thank you, Chris.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this also another interesting from the land down under.
Yes, Stevie No Wonder. I love that name. Seriously, I can't say it enough. Interestingly, some of the Aboriginal rock art over here look like big, dark-eyed, tiny-mouthed greys. Kind of like the one behind Michelle.
Bubbles made that one, just saying. But it takes me to some research that I had done for for the Gray Zone show that Joe and I had done. And in the 70s, the Nazis were alerted by someone in Egypt of a tomb. And this tomb had a large, I guess maybe what we would consider tall gray or maybe tall white. It was like in a sarcophagus, full headrest, everything. They found this just in the 70s and carried it out. Nazis. And there's photos of this. All kinds of photos of this. You can go online, old black and whites. You can go in and you can see them. So, hell, ain't that interesting? I just thought I'd throw that out there. So, okay, hold on. Let's try to get to some of the comments towards the end of the show.
Yep. Wayne says, oh, he's speaking to at nights.
Oh, at nights.
I have heard that as well. Even the staff on the space station have their internal clocks reset to a Martian day, not an Earth one. I didn't know that, Wayne.
Yeah, didn't know that. Look at you going like all philosophical tonight, Wayne.
We're giving you a show.
That come from? I know. We're coming back to the Great Lakes, rock art at the Great Lakes of Canada. Also Stonehenge in Lake Michigan, and a carving of a mastodon on a stone not far from there, right? I think
I know it's underwater actually.
Yes.
How do you
could have only been created during the last ice age.
Yeah.
When Lake Michigan was largely a glacier, and the lake level was much, much lower.
Right.
That's a
lot of stuff is starting to surface, and there's a lot of people who are talking about that and finally paying attention to other civilizations that have been here before us, which I think is wow. So what are your thoughts? And let's talk about places of mystery here in North America. Do you think that we've got like the Michigan Triangle? Do you think there's anything to that? I think like Ontario's got one, and Lake Superior. I mean, don't they all? But things go missing there. UFOs are spotted. Lake Erie apparently is just ridiculous for UFOs.
Yeah.
I grew up right near Chicago, so spent my early formative first 22 years on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. There are a lot of mysteries. And city of Chicago, founded at the confluence of the Chicago River with Lake Michigan, which was where the earliest explorers, Joliet and LaSalle, were shown by the Indians how to cross over from the southern branch of the Chicago River through the Mud Lake and then into the Des Plaines River, which went into the Illinois River, which goes into the Mississippi River, which goes into the Gulf of Mexico, and then you're free to travel. So there's a whole story of the Phoenicians also doing that route, and they were going up to the Lake Superior region where there are still open pit copper mines in the museums. You can see the implements that were used and even go out and see some of the open copper. It's the richest vein of copper in the world.
Wow.
The Phoenicians were presumed to have been traveling that same route. And I was on the TV show America Unearthed with Scott Walter, and we went to that site in southern Lyons, Illinois.
I saw that. Yeah.
Speaking of copper, do you know that they have found a way to grow vegetables by using copper wire on a twig, and then a metal that acts like an antenna, and it just gets put into the ground next to what you're growing? And they've been getting bumper crops.
Oh,
what is the vegetation like around there? Yeah, I was just in shock because I've been following this lady, and I'm like, wow. Like when I saw it, she said she's never planted before, and there's no reason for anyone to go hungry. When you think about it, it was just with a few seeds, just by knowing something like that, which is something probably they did centuries ago. And we just lost it somehow along the way, with pesticides and things like that. I wonder what the vegetation is like around these copper mines, and stop the weeds.
To them, and it's pretty barren there. It's just like deciduous tree forests and some conifers, pine trees. It's really cold there most of the year.
Maybe that's
around
why.
Lake Superior, very frigid because you get the lake winds that blow. Very
that would change. That would change vegetation. Yes,
it is. Well, I have to ask you, because I did see you being a contributor to TV show that spoke a lot about the forests in America and the mysterious forests in America. And there really are some crazy things that go on. I mean, in the forest and the national parks. I believe it was all about national parks, actually. And you had some pretty interesting statements to make. What do you think is going on in all these national parks around America? Because, not that it doesn't happen in other forests or parks around the world, but this specialized in the United States. What's going on, Brad? You were a contributor.
Well, yeah, we were talking about.
He was thinking.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Grand Canyon National Park. Yeah, a lot of national parks have exclusionary zones. You can't go in them. And that's kind of interesting. They should belong to everybody, right?
Right.
Do they explain why?
Nope. Just not allowed to go there.
That's not right. That's just going to make you want to go even more.
Yeah, of course. But you got to know where to go, right? You don't always know.
Or you don't come back.
You never know. I mean, there's parts of there've been accounts where people go in even just looking for Bigfoot, for example, and all of a sudden they hit a zone where they're not allowed to enter in, and they need to know where that zone is. But what I found interesting is when Mount St. Helen erupted, there were helicopters that came in and apparently removed, was it 2 or 3 Bigfoot from the burning forest, and they just took them off and carried them away. There were witnesses to this. So why would the military just want to haul them out of there? How would they know where to go find them?
But none of us can get a photograph.
I know. But but I mean, people go missing, and I mean, okay, people go missing. These parks are, thousands or hundreds, if not thousands of miles, right? They go on forever. So you're talking a lot of cave systems. You're talking about dense forest, fluctuations in temperature. But it seems to be something that regularly happens. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because they have been missing 411. I mean, this is a really big thing. Do you have thoughts on that?
Well, you've heard of David Pallades, the missing 911 in the national parks primarily.
Yeah, I watched it.
Missing cases that are totally inexplicable.
Yes. So what?
Right.
I mean,
maybe that's where people are getting abducted from.
I understand how you can go missing in a park and nobody hear you or see you, especially if you're crazy enough to hike on your own. You're no one, and it's that dense and thick. How did the helicopter find anything?
Right.
Well,
they had to have known where they were.
Well, yeah, that. But I mean, you're looking at like a little boy sitting there in the car, and his mother wanders a few feet away from him, and he's gone. Mom's like,
where's the dimension?
The
dimensional slip.
Or people are hiking and they just look behind them, and this person was literally just like, not like 100 feet behind them and gone.
Yeah. Yep. And he has report after report of that happening.
Yeah.
It's gone without a trace.
Right. So, and then other reports of, toddlers showing up, being cared for by, again, I'm just going by other, guests who have been on the show, but tall whites apparently caring for small children who have gone wandering off. And of course, other people like to blame Bigfoot. So I don't know. I'm just curious as to your thoughts on that, because it's a really big thing. Like, people are talking about this everywhere.
I think forest rangers sign an NDA, to be honest with you. When they go in, it's like, sign here if you want to work here.
I don't know. Forests are funky. Yeah. I've talked a lot about that experience in the Hoyabatsu forest. Yes. Zach started crying. I did not. I guess I have bigger kahunas than Zach.
That's Zach.
I will leave that right there. Yeah, I was like 3 days behind him.
He was crying. He was that scared?
Yeah, apparently.
Scared.
It's a pretty scary place, apparently. So,
I hear they make soothers for adults now.
It was a pretty interesting.
I like him. I'm joking. I do like him. I'm one of the few in this field that actually like him, but I do. I think he's come a long way.
It's also one of these locations where the locals often see, lights above the forest. They're local. They see lights within the forest. People get hurt in there. People have been tossed around. It's like Romania's Bermuda Triangle, technically speaking. So, fascinating experience and definitely something that will stay with you. So, out of all the places you've been, because you've been, where haven't you been? We'll just put that there.
Shorter list.
What is the place that intrigues you the most, or where would you like to go the most?
Well, Africa. I've only been to Egypt.
Me too. Yeah.
I landed in the airport in Abu Dhabi, Ethiopia, but I didn't get off the plane, so that doesn't count.
Right.
But I'd love to go explore Africa from top to bottom.
Right. Well, I mean, there's apparently the cradle of civilization, right? I mean, you can imagine like the history that's there, but it's beautiful. I don't think Africa gets enough credit for what it is. It's truly a beautiful country.
It is beautiful. They have the most epic trees, and you know them when you see them that they're from there.
Continent.
Yeah, they're so pretty.
Not a country. The continent. Second largest.
Continent. Yes, the continent.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay, so where have you been that has left its mark that you would go back
Egypt.
to? Or
Egypt's amazing.
I felt the same.
So much more to see there. My second favorite, as far as archaeological ruins, is in Cambodia, around Angkor.
Yes.
Just goes on and on and on. Absolutely fascinating.
Yes.
I just appeared in a documentary about the Cahokia Mounds in Illinois, and I was speaking at the Journey to Truth conference in May. Yeah, they just released, and I have a couple parts in it talking about mound builders and the proximity to St. Louis. And really cool. Invite your listeners to check it out. Go to Journey to Truth, Cahokia documentary. Super cool. Finding giants as well. Suppressed. You go into the visitor center. We don't know anything about that. Right. But then we met a local historian that came out. Oh, yeah, right around there in the 1930s, they dug up two giants with double rows of teeth and 6 digits on their hands and toes.
If they're eating humans, they need double rows of teeth.
I think people are opening up about it. Have you ever met Dennis Stone from America's Stonehenge?
I have. Yeah, I know Dennis.
Dennis is wonderful.
Stonehenge a couple times.
Oh, and he's been on the show. He's coming back on next month.
Great.
Yeah, I just love him. But it's fascinating to me because it's only just such a small fraction of it that has been uncovered. He says, oh, there's like 100 acres out there. I'm like, then he starts talking about the mounds. And do you think, I mean, have you explored them? Do you think that he would find something under there if he looked?
Well, they have found
giants
quite a bit. There was a small well or stone-lined pit where they found crystals on the bottom. Ask him about that.
Oh, wow.
About the possible Phoenician influence. Remember those Great Lake Phoenicians going up to Superior for the copper?
Right.
Ask him about the megalithic qualities. Why is it named America's Stonehenge? Because it's a perfect calendar aligned to archaeoastronomy, all the major movement of celestial bodies you can see from a platform at America's Stonehenge. It's absolutely fascinating. You don't get that many coincidences unless it was a very highly advanced culture that built it.
Yes, I agree with you. It's nice that it's on this side of the world and that he makes it available for people to come and experience it, and that he's been doing it for so long. Yeah. Besides that,
it's kind of him.
Oh, well, I mean, just the mounds alone to me are fascinating. Well, in as we slowly start getting into the end of the show, what do you have coming up? How can people find you? You have more seminars coming up, have another book, just promote.
Yep.
All the everything.
All of the above.
The conferences usually go dark during the winter. People
Right.
don't like to travel. It's not a good time to be driving.
Mhm.
And then they kind of go dark in the middle of summer when the kids are out and
Right.
people make their trip. So in the fall and the spring is when I speak at most conferences. So the fall conferences are starting up in September. I'll be in Las Vegas for the alien event where I'm going to be giving my Antarctica, the latest findings
Nice.
presentation. So if people were more interested in that, should come out to that. But I'm also going to moderate 2 panels. I think one of them is the super soldier panel, and I think I'm
Ooh.
speaking on 1 or 2 more. So that'll be third weekend or middle of September. And then the third weekend, the very next weekend, I got to move on up to Mount Shasta for Shalimar's conference. And Laura Eisenhower will be at both of those. We're probably going to travel together
Right.
between the 2, and I'll show her my ranch up here in northwestern Nevada.
Beautiful.
And then in October, I produce a big street fair event in San Francisco called the Weird Street Faire.
Mhm.
That'll be October 14th. And then the following weekend
Nice.
after that, I'm speaking at the Galactic and Spiritual Informers Connection in Orlando, Florida. Dr.
Wow.
Salo will be there. Alex Collier's very last public appearance.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
big
Dan
deal.
Willis, who doesn't speak much at conferences. A lot of really great speakers.
Wow.
Anybody that can make it down to Florida, I highly recommend that one. It's going to be
Don't
great.
burn
They're all
yourself
going to be great.
out.
Actually.
Don't
Wow.
burn yourself out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, you're the guy to do it. You're very versed, and I enjoy listening to you when I see you come on television. I always take the time to listen because you are versed. You do take the time to research. You do go out there and you get hands on, and I really love that about you.
Oh, that's kind of you to say.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
true. It's true.
You're salt of the earth. You really are.
Yeah, you know, you are. And you're always welcome. Open door policy, as I always say. One last question for you.
Oh, this one.
Amelia?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. Is that in Egypt?
Nermit dog. Just before that, CC said Angkor Wat is amazing. So I'm wondering
If there's a
if
connection.
it's from there. If you're
Right.
still there,
Remember
CC.
Jag? I'm not familiar with that. If it's in the greater Angkor area, there are literally 100 or more temples
Right.
all across the surrounding countryside. It's really a great place to go. Man, you could spend a week there and not retrace your steps.
Right. Well, I mean, to me, that's my kind of vacation.
Mhm.
I love history, archaeology, you name it. But thank you for joining us again, Brad. It's always a pleasure, as I say. And you have something coming up, something you want to talk about, just say the word and we'll get you in here to talk about it because it's always a pleasure.
Cool. And I should also mention, if anybody wants to check out my books.
Yes.
and the other
Yes, put them
authors-
up to the camera.
Yeah, there we go. In my bookshelf here in my little studio. And then other authors I publish, including Leo Lyon Zagami, Michael Jaco's new book called The Awakening of a Warrior, just shipped from the printer. That turned out pretty cool. Awakening of a Warrior. And I contributed the images, maps, and
Beautiful.
wrote the captions for this book, and we've reissued it into a second edition. Really great old maps in here that he
I love it.
recounts being a warrior in many past lifetimes.
Wow.
That's
cool
nice
too.
if you're a collector too, though, to have
My
something
book,
like that.
Modern Esoteric, came out in the Bulgarian language. Look at that. It's like as thick as
Look at that thing.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, all in
How
the
long are their
Cyrillic
words?
script.
Wow.
Oh, it's
oh my
tiny
goodness.
script.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But it's
though.
huge.
That's like
Yeah.
Bible
Yeah.
print.
That's a
Faithfully
behemoth.
reproduced all my images, captions, and as far as I can translate or compare it to the English text, did a good job
Oh,
making
it's
that all
wonderful.
work. So that's quite an honor to get
How
a book.
does one
it
edit
sure
and
is.
check something
They
like
always
that?
come to me. They'll say, I'm a publisher and
Yeah.
came across this book and we want to publish it.
That's
make a
really
contract, send them the
complimentary.
files, and then a year or two later they'll send you the book, and it's really always quite cool to get one.
Oh,
Fred, how do
absolutely.
you double check something when it's a different
You don't.
language?
Yeah.
Oh God.
They just help cross your
You
fingers
just don't.
for the best.
You basically lease the rights
right.
for your
Okay.
copyright to be reprinted, and it says in the contract that the new publisher is able to change it around, to mix it up.
Well,
and
they have to for grammar, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, you want to think that they would faithfully reproduce it. So this is most of my cover, but this red part at the bottom, and I kind of like the way he put in that image, the peeling layer, and the guy crossing over to the other dimension. That's pretty cool.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're always happy, if you have any guests that you think would do well in the show. We're always happy. I work with communicate with a lot of different publishers and promoters, and we're always happy to give their authors some airtime and get their books noticed. Absolutely. But take really good care. Enjoy the rest of your summer. And I know you have a whirlwind fall coming up. I'll be watching, and I live through you. So busy. I can't remember the last time I got on a plane. It's like, God, what's Brad doing?
Where is he now?
There's a lot of jealousy coming out of her mouth.
Exactly. Go someplace that's really wild and say, here's one of those mystery spots. Yeah. Like, woo, excellent. But thank you so much again for joining us. Pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me on. And we usually set up our next interview 2-3 months ahead. We could do that again. We're happy to come on with you guys.
I'd love to. Throw me some ideas. Let's do it. I love
Q&A.
I love it.
We didn't have a hard time filling these 2 hours.
We never do. No. It always flies by so fast. Yeah. And thank you for not making me feel intimidated. Thank you. Seriously, because there's so much. No, you don't make me feel intimidated, but I can feel intimidated because I'm still learning about all of this.
Yeah,
so it's very interesting, and it's nice when I ask a question. I don't get that look like, huh? What did she asking? Because that has happened. Just saying. But yes. Thank you.
Right.
Not a problem. Good to be on with you guys again, and have a good night.
All right. Yeah, you as well.
Pick it up again soon.
Okay. Right. Take care, Fred. Don't forget to rest.
All right, you guys. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was definitely another fantastic segment. Brad is so versed, and sometimes some of these stories are stranger than fiction, and we really have to give thought to where the stories come from. Sometimes people really, really go out on a limb trying to put this stuff out there, no matter how crazy it sounds. There are people who take risks, and there is information that will start to surface. And whether we believe that information or not, that's a great thing about the internet. It's a good time to go in and surf around and see if there's any credibility to any of it. Go to the library, get a book. I'm a history nut. I research absolutely as much as possible. Every day I will research at least one thing. And I know Knight had asked if Joe and I were still doing the Gray Zone on Saturdays. Not at the moment, but I'll tell you, Joe and I have been talking about it. And we may start just doing special edition shows, because people don't realize there's just probably about 25 hours a week that goes into doing the research for the show and then putting it together. It does really take quite a bit of time to do, and we try to make it as enjoyous.
It's okay. It's Friday Eve. It's Friday Eve.
As enjoyable as possible. And we do have a lot of fun doing the show as well. So, with that being said, just maybe just watch and see, and y'all might get a surprise sometime. So again, thank you all in the chat room for tuning in. We just love having you guys interact with us. It's been a lot of fun. We always look forward to seeing you all there week after week. So thank you. Big thank you to our guest, Brad Olsen, for coming on board again this evening. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring our show tonight and every week, and Wednesdays. And thank you. We appreciate you so much. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, Justin Snicker. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis. Thank you. We appreciate you so very much. If you enjoy the shows, please, wherever you're watching, go in, like it up, subscribe to it. follow it, whatever the case may be. Share it up. We appreciate you, and you're helping us continue to grow. So next week, Wednesday. Okay. This is probably going to be, well, I don't know if we have a Q&A next month, but it's going to be an open discussion night. We're not going to post a topic just yet. We will post it when we post the show. But I can tell you it's going to be something fun. Always is, just to get you guys going, like just to get all that interaction. But it's something that we've mentioned a couple of times this week. I'll leave that right there. Thursday night, we welcome Gary Jones all the way from the UK. And he's actually going to step and do a live show just for you guys in the chat room.
That's
there we go.
Impressive.
And he's going to be talking about his new book, and I'm going to see if I can say this right. The Denbei Lights, a truthful argument for the existence of UFOs. Bah, right there.
Wow.
I like
Very impressive. He's staying awake. It'll be nice if everybody's there interacting.
Yeah, guys, because for him, it's going to be 2 a.m.
The beginning of the program.
Right
it'll be 4 a.m. by the time he gets
exactly. That is a champ.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, have a really fantastic weekend, and we'll see you all next Wednesday. We love you. We appreciate you. Good night.